Hi, I'm Ronnie Terry, and this is Who is Ronnie Terry? I was born in Little Rock, Arkansas, but I was raised in California. Wow. My childhood was actually good. It was great, actually. I grew up in a very musical family, and I had uncles, aunts who played piano, who sang. Everybody pretty much sang in the family. So I would say that I loved it. I had a wonderful childhood. Did I know that I always wanted to be in entertainment? Yes. Although I didn't know in what capacity, because I enjoyed being in front of the camera, but I also enjoyed being behind the scenes, as well as pretty much just, I just love all aspects of entertainment, so yeah. I began my professional career in entertainment around the age of 23. It was one of those things where you just happen to be at the right place at the right time. I was actually at a concert. I think it was, oh God, MC Hammer, Jodeci. It was a lot of artists on that show, and literally me and my girlfriend just happened to be, standing over there on the side because I had known a couple of the artists that were in the show, and his brother just actually came and approached me. His brother, Louis Burrell, was actually his manager at the time. And he introduced himself and asked, what did I do? And, just questions like that. And I kind of explained to him what I was doing, what I was going to college for. And he said, well, look, I'm going to give you my card, but Hammer's going to be starting his own record label and doing his own tour coming up in the next couple of years. And when he does, I'm going to contact you. So, of course, you meet people at shows, oh, I'm going to call you, whatever. But I was like, I'm probably never going to hear from them again. But what happened was my best friend at the time, Lisa, she actually knew one of his bodyguards really well. And he contacted Lisa saying that, Louis Burrell was trying to get in touch with me. But I'm like, huh? I said, you're joking. And she was like, no. And I said, well, okay, give him my number. So Louis Burrell called, and he explained what was going on, and he asked me was I still interested in really getting into entertainment. And of course I was like, yes, but then I was a little like, okay, wait a minute, is this man, what's really going on? But I had a couple of conversations with him, and then, I said, cool, I'm definitely interested. So the next thing I knew, I was flown to Kentucky. Kentucky was the first date on the Please Hammer Don't Hurt 'Em tour. So they brought me out, and I actually came out. My first position was assistant tour coordinator. And basically what I did was kind of shadow the actual publicist at the time, the tour publicist. Her name was Ramona. And she basically just kind of trained me, taught me. I just followed behind her, and I assisted her in whatever she needed assistance with. And but yeah, from there it just went on. So yeah. Okay, so after I basically finished the Please Hammer Don't Hurt 'Em tour, we go back to Oakland, California. And while we're there in Oakland, they say, well, okay, we want you to be director of publicity here for the actual label. And I said, really? I said, I thought it was going to be Ramona. Well, no, we've decided that we wanted to go in a new direction, and do you want the position? So of course, I was like, sure, yes. And so what's crazy about all of this is that at my age, I was only 23 years old, and I was the youngest person to be in a situation where I was handling publicity, PR, and everything for such a major artist, because back then, you know, of course, Hammer was like the biggest thing out. I actually had to carry 2 phones, 2 cell phones, and a pager. It was just that crazy. So I thought that was kind of cool, because basically, you know, at my age, at that time, that was unheard of. But I worked. I busted my butt. I cried. I went through all kinds of things, but I fought my way through, because I knew that I really wanted to be in entertainment, and I had to just, you know, suck it up and just whatever comes my way, you know, deal with it and keep moving. There were times when I wanted to run home, where I cried at night, and I was like, I can't do this. Entertainment, even to this day, entertainment is definitely a male-dominated industry. And so when you're a female, it's more challenging, you know, because a lot of times, you know, men don't want to take you seriously. It was really bad back then. Thank God it's gotten better now, but back in the early 90s, it wasn't easy for a young and an attractive female to, you know, be successful and to be able to, you know, just do the things that I had the opportunity of doing. So for me, I know that it was truly for me. I feel like if I had continued and if I had stayed in college, that I wouldn't have had the opportunities that I had. There are times that I wish I could have finished and got my degree, but the other side of me knows that if I had, I would never have had the opportunities that I've been given throughout my life. So, yeah. How did I meet my husband? Wow. I met my husband, actually, I was on the road working. At the time, I had clients who were on the Detroit Lions as well as the Green Bay Packers. And I happened to be in Detroit seeing my clients. And it was really weird because that Saturday, me and my partner, we dealt with all of our clients. But then that Sunday, instead of staying for the games, we decided that, you know, we were going to go ahead and fly home. So I had changed my flight, and I had like the first flight out of Detroit going into Atlanta. And so that next morning, I jumped up, got ready. I was at the airport walking to my gate, and I noticed that I saw Tony. You know, I said, okay, but you know, because I didn't get like, oh, it's Tony Terry. I was just like, okay, that's Tony. So I basically said hello, whatever. Then the gentleman that was with him, he actually started, you know, having a conversation with me. And Tony, he was literally over there on the phone, pretending like he was talking to another woman. He just, you know, he was on the phone. So I was having the conversation with his friend. The next thing I know, Tony got off the phone and he kind of joined the conversation. And then he was like, I said to him, I said, I think you owe me some money. And he was like, you do? I said, have you ever been in Atlanta? He's like, well, yeah, I used to be in Atlanta all the time. Now note that he's just making all of this up because none of it's true. But at the time, I didn't know that. So I'm like, okay. He's like, yeah, my managers, you know, I used to be in Atlanta all the time. And so I was like, okay, yeah, I think it's you. In any case, I ended up getting on my flight. He wasn't able to get on because it was full. So I'm in Atlanta. While I'm in Atlanta, I get a phone call from another one of my clients. I think it was a client of mine that played for the Washington Redskins. So he's like, I need you to come. I'll pay you double. And I'm like, look, I literally just got here in Atlanta. He's like, no, please, I'll take care of everything. And I'm like, okay. So I just happened to turn around while I was on the phone with my client, and I saw Tony just running across the aisle. He was trying to get to his gate because they were late. So I was like, Tony, you know, I didn't want to like scream it out because the airport was packed. So I was like, Tony. And then finally he looked around and he was like, I'll call you at my gate. So of course I was like, oh, well, you know, maybe he'll call, maybe he won't. And not too long after that, I was sitting there and he called. And it was like we had known each other forever. It wasn't like, who is this person? It was like I knew that person and he knew me. So it kind of just, it was one of those things where we met and we never stopped talking. 2 weeks later, he called me every day up until he decided to come to Atlanta. He came to Atlanta. While he was in Atlanta, probably about 2 weeks later, he proposed. 6 months later, we were married, and we have been married now a little over 17 years. So, yeah, we knew. When I decided to move to Atlanta, it was kind of weird. I didn't know exactly that I was going to stay in Atlanta. I had some friends invite me to come and just see if I liked it. I came to Atlanta, and I was riding in my car one day, and I just happened to hear this thing on the radio that they were having auditions for the Atlanta Falcons. So I was like, but I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. So I went to Atlanta because at that time, you have to understand, I had just decided I needed a break from entertainment. I just needed to take a minute. I knew that I still wanted to be in entertainment, but I didn't want to do PR. I wanted to kind of do something different. I needed a break. So again, I ended up coming to Atlanta, tried out for the Falcons. I made it. And that's how I ended up staying in Atlanta. Let's see. So while I was cheering, I was also, trying to figure out exactly what I wanted to do. When I left Hammer, it was at a time where he kind of like disbanded like everything. He had told basically everyone, look, at the end of this tour, I'm going to be letting most of you go. He didn't let me go, but I chose at that time to say, I want to step away myself because he was revamping. He wanted to take a break and he wasn't sure exactly what he was going to be doing after the tour. So he wanted to make sure everybody knew that at the end, you're on your own, so to speak. But so I decided that I wanted to start working with professional athletes. I wanted to get more into image development, consulting, teaching them how to put their wardrobes together, what colors work best for them, those type of things. I really enjoyed, designing. That was another thing that I enjoyed that a lot of people don't know. I love doing custom designs, especially for men. And then I actually met someone and he told me what he did, and I was like, wow, that's my other passion. I've always wanted to get into custom design and things like that. He's like, look, I have a position. I'm looking to hire someone, and if you're interested, we should talk. In any case, at the end of the day, we ended up becoming the best of friends. He brought me in, he trained me, he taught me, because I knew how to design, but I didn't really understand how to measure when it comes to men, because men's measurements are very different from women. So he basically taught me, and once I got to a point where I felt like, okay, I got this, that's when I started my own company, but we still worked together. We did custom wear together, but I also had what they call ready wear. And again, most of my clientele were all professional athletes and entertainers. And I did that for several years, which is how I ended up being in Detroit and meeting my husband. So yeah, that's how that happened. I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia in 2006, a month after giving birth to my son Dyson. What had happened was I came home right before Thanksgiving after giving birth. Dyson was born on the 21st of November, which was a few days before Thanksgiving. My mom was in town, everybody was around me. Tony was home, and I go into labor, have Dyson. But then 2 days later, I go into congestive heart failure. I just happened to be at home, and my mom and my husband, Tony, they kept saying, Ronnie, just relax. You're going to be good. You're okay. Just relax. I would go in my room, and and I would try to lay down. And every time I tried to lay down, something didn't feel right. And I would have to jump back up. And I remember going back into the living room and saying, Mom, something's not right. I can't rest. I can't rest. And my mom would always say, I just think it's anxiety. You just, you just had a baby. You're just a little anxious. Try to lay down. Tony's like, babe, just lay down. I go, try to lay down again. I couldn't lay down. Every time I tried to go back, I couldn't lay down. And so my mom finally said, call her doctor. Tony, call her doctor. They called my doctor. My doctor said, look, you guys need to get her to the ER right away. I think she's going into congestive heart failure. So my mom stayed with Dyson, and me and Tony, he rushed me to the ER. Got in there. They literally drained 17 liters of fluid off of me, literally. And it was just insane. So we found out that, like I said, they had put too much fluid in me. After, I think I stayed in there maybe a day or so, but they sent me back home. And after that, I thought everything was fine. I thought, okay, I just had a baby, so we're just gonna just move on like you're supposed to. Next thing I know, I started trying to walk. Every time I would take a step with either foot, it would just be the most excruciating pain. The pain was so bad, I wanted to fall every time, but unfortunately, a lot of times I had my son in my arms. I was trying to. Then I noticed I started having trouble holding my son. I literally could not hold my son because my hands started hurting. Not only my feet, but then my hands started hurting. And I just couldn't figure out what was going on. Everything was starting to hurt. And finally, my husband was like, look, I'm going to call your doctor. We're going to make an appointment. So we go back in to see my my doctor. And she says, I don't know what's causing that. Let's send her to this doctor. Go to that doctor. Then it was like, we don't find anything wrong. Sent me to another doctor. We don't know what's going on, and we've done the test. We don't see. Okay, go to another doctor. I think I saw maybe 4 doctors before I finally saw a doctor who was a neurologist. And I went in there, and we started explaining what was happening, what was going on with my body. And he said, within 10 minutes, he said, I know what's wrong with her. And he literally asked me to stand up. I stood up, and then he just started touching different places on my body, places that I didn't even know were hurting until he touched them. And he said, your wife has fibromyalgia. And so we were like, fibromyalgia? Because, back then, that wasn't something that was very talked about. I had never heard of it. I think my husband had known someone who had had it, but he really didn't know much about it. And he said, well, she's going to probably have to be on some very heavy medication, but I can help her. So we basically just followed what he said. He sent us home. We followed what he said, and he had put me on morphine. The morphine wasn't working for me, and it was making me sick. Like, I was constantly being sick. I already couldn't hold my son. It was just, I was crying all the time. I didn't know what was going on. So 2 weeks later, we go back, we see the neurologist, and my husband is like, look, what can we do? What can we do to help my wife? She is really struggling, and I don't know what to do. And he looked at Tony and said, I'm sorry, your wife is going to have to be on morphine for the rest of her life. My husband said, Ronnie, come on, let's go. He looked at the doctor. He said, thank you. Have a nice day. And we never looked back. From then, as time started to progress, I started getting worse and worse. Everything started hurting. At one time, my neck locked to the left. I couldn't turn it back. The next thing I know, it locked to the right. Then the next thing, everything was just going bad. And I was in such a state of depression and pain because I had just had a baby. Literally had just had a baby. Oh, wow. From there, again, things just started going, it was just getting worse and worse and worse. And no matter what doctor I saw, nobody was helping me. They constantly wanted to put me on this drug, that drug, this drug. I think at one time I was on 17 different drugs at one time. And I was like, something's not right about it. This is not normal. Nobody should have to be on this many drugs. I remember a doctor saying to me, look, we have given you everything that we normally give a person with fibromyalgia, and nothing is working. We think you need help. You need to go. Basically, he made me feel like I was a drug addict or something. And this doctor was a pain management doctor. His whole thing was to try to help you manage your pain and not have to be on all these different drugs. But for me, nothing worked. So I ended up saying, okay, it is what it is, and just learning how to basically deal with it. It affected me in such a way mentally. The depression was terrible. I couldn't think straight. I had fibro fog. I couldn't sleep. It was so many things going on, and I really just didn't know how to deal with it because of also just having a baby. And all I knew is that I couldn't hold my newborn. I literally couldn't nurse my newborn because I was on all these different drugs. I had to just say, God, help me. Help me. I don't want to live like this. My husband, unfortunately, bless his heart, he was there by my side, through everything, any doctor's appointment, anything I had to go to, he was right there with me. But, it started getting to a point to where I felt like I felt like he was basically getting tired of having to take care of someone who, he just married. I think it was pretty much like he didn't sign up for this. This is not what I signed up for. Me and my wife, we were go-getters. We traveled around the world. And I think it hit him really hard when he realized that this might be our life for the rest of our lives. So I think he went through some things, and then I started going through some things. And I think I went through where at one time I literally resented him. I mean, and being honest, I really did resent him because I felt like he's able to go out and live his life and do what he wants to do while I'm here at home, not only sick, but with a newborn baby. And it took me a while to get through that and understand that it's not his fault. But it did take a toll. It was very stressful because, again, we had just gotten married. We were still newlyweds. And neither one of us ever could have imagined that something like this was happening. And I remember one night saying to my husband, I'm so sorry that this is happening, but I need you to please just allow me the opportunity to take care of our son right now because he didn't ask to be here. And I don't have the strength to tend to him and tend to your needs as well. And I know it's not fair, but if you would please just bear with me and allow me this time to get through this. And of course he said, okay, I understand. And I think he would have said that even if he didn't, to be honest. But, he tried his best. And again, it's very taxing on a marriage, not only emotionally, but even intimacy, because you're just in a place of you don't like yourself, you don't understand, you don't know what's going on, and you definitely don't feel like being intimate. And it was times my husband, I couldn't even let him touch me. I was in so much pain, and he would try to touch me, and I couldn't take it. So I know that he was dealing with a lot, but again, he loved me enough to where he was going to stay by my side and go through this with me. Because one thing about fibromyalgia, when you're diagnosed with fibromyalgia, basically your whole family is diagnosed with fibromyalgia because it affects every aspect of your life. So, but fibromyalgia truly takes a toll on a marriage. It takes a toll on the actual person who's going through it. And you just have to fight, and just trust that, it's going to get better. But as far as how did fibromyalgia affect me and my life, it affected me horribly. And I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. I feel like that we, as a society, sometimes don't understand a lot of the things that we go through, especially in our health, especially I'll say the brown community. One thing I will say that I decided that I said, God, if you help me through this, if you get me through this, I promise you I will do everything I can to bring awareness to fibromyalgia, especially in the brown community, because, you know, a lot of us, when it comes to healthcare, we can't afford it. And you're walking around, you're going through all this pain, and you're not understanding why you're hurting, but you know that you're hurting. And I just want to bring more awareness so we can get checked out. Go talk to the doctors. There's so many programs and things that you can go through to get help. And I just want to be someone who can definitely give any information that I can to anyone who asks for it. I believe that bringing awareness to it is really going to make a difference, hopefully. So that's what I really want to do, and that's what I'm trying to do at this point in my life. Who am I? Ronnie Terry is the woman that you see right here, right now. I am a wife. I'm a mother. I'm a sister. I'm an aunt. Ronnie Terry is someone who's striving every day to be the best that she can be for herself. At the end of the day, I'm a survivor. I have overcome so much with my health, with my marriage, with my life. I will continue to fight. I've always been a fighter. Even when the doctors told me, you can't get off those 17 different drugs. Every time I said, okay. But guess what? I got off every one of them on my own. I have fought to get to a place of peace in knowing that no matter what I go through, as long as I continue to fight, as long as I continue to trust that God is in control, I know I will be successful. I have gone through things that I wouldn't wish my worst enemy on. There are days that I didn't even want to live. I would wake up every day and say, God, I can't do this anymore. I cannot do it anymore. But God said, yes, you can, and you will. And I said, I'm a survivor.